Hey, Biff, why did Dracula pass out on New Year's Eve?
We doing this again? Why did Dracula pass out on New Year's Eve, Jacques?
There was a countdown.
God,
Countdown.
God forbid.
Oh, all right. Here we go. You'll love this one.
No, I won't.
No, personal guarantee.
No,
Hey, Biff, why does the person who runs Times Square feel like a failure?
because he dropped the ball.
No.
Uh,
Hey!
Now we can end the joke telling because you've got a punchline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. This is Jacques.
I'm leaving.
I'm with him.
This is Biff.
Oh, okay. I'm Joe.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in our little worlds, and then per Joe's smart suggestion, we're going to do a look back because we've had a.
I was
And I-
hoping it was going to be Joe's suggestion that we quit.
No, that was my number one suggestion, but apparently part of Project 2025 is keeping this fucking podcast going.
You know what? I think I need this more coming up than I did in 2016, and boy, did I need this in 2016. But yeah, preparing for this, I went down the list of guests this year. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But let's start at the beginning. Biff, how was Japan?
Japan was lovely. I spent 10 days just shopping and eating and drinking. 'Cause I'm a lousy tourist when it comes to going to Japan, and so it's mostly just getting a lot of my shopping done.
What part of Japan did you visit?
I was in Tokyo. Originally I was supposed to go towards Western Japan where my younger brother had moved, but there was a little bit of an issue with just trying to get together with him, so that didn't happen. But
Because he doesn't like you being the issue.
right, among other things, right? Yeah, all those things. But I got to see. What's kind of cool is that when I was a kid, I had to go to Japanese school on Saturdays where on Saturdays I learned the Japanese curriculum, right? And the idea is that in case we have to go back to Japan, we're prepared for the curriculum there. So that's kind of the premise behind it. So like I took Japanese, language, social studies, math, science, that kind of stuff on Saturdays. And so I have friends from that. So these are friends I saw like kind of once a week, and then for few years, and yet I'm still in really good touch with them. And so I got to get together with about five of them for an extended lunch on one of the days, and it's just very lovely. It's just you get to see these people that I've known for whatever almost 50 years.
That kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
is awesome, and it's great. I mean, I'm not a big social media
yeah,
guy, but it is nice that
yeah,
has made it possible for
yeah.
friendships like that. More
Absolutely.
more importantly, you go to one of those restaurants where the conveyor belt goes by, and you just take what you want, and then you count the
Sushi.
plates at the end.
I did not go to one of those, but they have those around here too. I mean, they're the one of the major sushi chains for that. It's called Kura Sushi. There's actually at least two in LA. So yeah, I mean, it's not that novel. So
No, you have to take the wife there because every time she sees that in a movie, there's a term for it, and and she's like, "Oh, I love that."
yeah, they call it kaiten sushi, but kaiten means kind of like kind of spin or like whatever. But the thing about it is that like one of the major chains, the thing that is kind of fun about it, I guess, is that so you order on the tablet, and then after a certain number of orders, you get to play a game on the tablet, and then you win these prizes. And then and a lot of the times the prizes are somewhat sought after because they're in partnership with, let's say, like Pokemon or something like that. So there you get these the sushi chain exclusive Pokemon goods and stuff like that.
And I think the question Joe, and is has that I have is, why do you come back?
Because I can.
Yeah, but why did you? Is the
Because
question.
I can, and if I wanted to, I can also leave.
We'll see. We'll see. I think there's camps that are reopening.
There's no interest in this is not a detention. This is less of a detention administration than it is an expulsion
Right.
administration. So There you go.
Well, welcome back. And
Thank you.
and Joe, how was your Christmas?
It was tender and mild. It was like baby Jesus. It was didn't have a lot going on. We didn't even visit family. It was like
Mm,
middle of the week. I didn't take any time
yeah.
off
Yeah.
except for the day. So, we just basically lounged around and enjoyed each other's company. Wink. We didn't really. No, it was fine. My kids who still live with me are older, but it's we have more practical gift giving now. But I got my prerequisite Back to the Future shirt and Save the
Fantastic.
Clock Tower,
Say
what I'm wearing now.
fantastic.
I also got a Ghostbusters hoodie, and yeah, and I got an Apple Watch for my wife.
Nice.
But I don't know if she likes it. So she's not a big technological person, but I don't know. We'll see. I still got the receipt. Wish I had that on the marriage license, if you know. I kid. I
Oh,
kid. I'm projecting. I know that she would divorce me in a heartbeat if she won that Mega Millions or Powerball. By the way, did you hear that the both Powerball ticket and Mega Millions jackpots were over $1 billion each, and each were won by one sole winner?
Wow.
mhm.
Yeah. So
Elon Musk.
yeah, right. It wouldn't have it was Mr. Burns. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? But yeah, that's the thing is that now we're creating instant billionaires. Like, have we learned nothing?
Right.
Actually,
Right.
they're instant half billionaires
Not
because
billionaires, yeah.
yeah,
After the
the
taxes.
state takes that in federal.
Yeah,
But
but
anyways,
after 3 days of leaving it in a high yield account, it is
wait, there are high yield accounts?
I don't know. We don't. It's a world that we don't know, and nor will we. We can ask our friend John about it, though.
So
We can
I
ask
did
either
find
of
it
my friends Johns.
I did find it adorable while I was in Japan that they have their so-called big lottery where the jackpot is preset and it's basically equivalent to about $7 million. And like people are lining up to get these, lottery tickets. I'm thinking, that's really adorable. It's like,
Yeah, we don't get out of bed for less than 1 billion
seven
for
million.
when
That's
we
like,
play the lottery
that's
here.
like one carryover, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, good.
And
I'm
what
glad.
about your wait.
We
What
had,
about your Christmas?
we by our standards had kind of a low key Christmas, a very low key Christmas by our standards. We have a friend who stays with us.
it's
Uh,
low
sh
key as in the low key and not as in like a
oh
Marvel
no no
character.
no! It's
Because
A very low key
Loki.
Christmas.
Odin's son, all over the
yeah.
place. No, one of our best friends. She's a single mom. She's Jewish. Her ex-husband gets their son on Christmas because she's Jewish and she gets him on Thanksgiving. So she spends Christmas with us, and every year we watch some Christmas specials that she hasn't seen.
Okay.
So it was nice. It is. It was really nice. Joe, I meant to ask, did you watch any Christmas specials this year you haven't seen?
Myself, no, no. I am fully entrenched in the past. I've stopped. I've forsaken anything past the year 2000. If it's made after 2000, I don't want to know about it.
See, the problem is management gives up her room to her friend when she stays with us, and then she takes the living room, so I can't watch It's a Wonderful Life by myself at 2 in the morning on Christmas Eve like I always do. Just because I can't.
I braved it. I watched it with my wife and younger son, and they know that I'm just gonna I might spontaneously erupt with tears, but I held it together. I was pretty good.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to hold it together. But yeah, I watched Red One, the new one with Simmons and The Rock, and it was
Hmm.
fun. It was fun. We tried. I've told you this, Biff. We in this house love ourselves a little Jack Black. He has a new Christmas special. We didn't make it 15 minutes. We didn't make even our little guy was like, I'm out.
Dear
I'm out.
Santa.
Yeah, it was horrible. But
It was that good.
yeah. So, quickly, talking a little comedy stuff. I got to open for in a beyond sold out place, which was great. Joe was there. for Christine Hurley, our recent guest, Christine Hurley. And Joe, why don't you tell her about tell everybody about the show?
It was a lovely show. It was in a, I guess, newly renovated and expansion of what is it called, the Kyoto restaurant, and it's up. It's not in Kyoto. It's not even a. I don't know what they serve Chinese food, so I was completely thrown. I didn't know what was going on, but
You know, those people, how could you tell them apart, right?
they can't tell each other apart. That's the problem.
Tell you.
So no, but it was nice. They had tables set up for like 8 seats each. Like uh the decor was pretty okay. They had a buffet set up, but then they had to wheel it away in order to make room for the stage afterwards. So it was a little kind of thrown together. It was fine. They had a bar, but as Jacques alluded to, it was very well attended.
Hmm.
So yeah, congratulations to Chris Flayhive and CFP Productions for the turnout. And yeah, Christine Hurley was the headliner, who we talked about on this podcast, guest of the podcast, dare we say, friend of the podcast.
We do. She went out of her way to say how much she likes you specifically.
No.
Right. Elias.
Quite fond of. Quite fond of was the phrase she used.
So that's nice. But really the highlight was when Jacques, as the featured comic was going up doing his thing, Jacques hosted, brought up the feature comic, who Dave, I can't remember his last name right now.
Costello.
Dave Costello, right? Like the famous Lou. And so he was up there doing his thing, and while he was up there doing his thing, Jacques like, okay, take this bag and come meet us at the bar because we're gonna say hi to Christine Hurley. And I go, okay. And I bring the bag, and inside the bag is a reference to the podcast that she did with us. It was an actual physical birthday cake because she celebrated her 60th birthday on our podcast, and we delivered a real live cake that I'm sure she didn't throw away as soon as she got outside.
She sent it to me the next day, having eaten it all. It was the exact same kind of cake we got her for the podcast. We sang happy birthday, and when Joe handed it to him, like, we kept it. like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, the magic of freezing. No, but it was it was a great gesture.
Yeah.
You could have taken the price tag off, but
I'm white trash, but she was great. She's and
Yeah.
Joe sat with my parents.
Yes, yeah, I love seeing your parents. It was nice. Your sister and husband were there. Your management was there, your wife. It was a nice little kind of like a mini holiday get together. Kind of in between the holiday get together.
My sister loved Christine, so she brought her boss and his husband. My wife really wanted all her friends to see it. So it's the largest turnout, I think, or close to the largest turnout I've got for a show, having little to do with me being at the show.
We're not here to see you.
Right. Okay. Quiet, you awful man. We want to hear Christine Hurley. But what? Kudos to Jacques. He did a great job. He kept the place alive and going. Because when you, although Jacques' comedy is kind of like the Chinese food. You hear it, and then like 5 minutes later, you still want to laugh. So So luckily, the other comics were there to pick up the pieces. Again, Christine Hurley crushed. It was great. A wonderful night all around.
Yeah, and tonight I get to see Jim McHugh, also a friend of the podcast, and the great Tony V. So
guest of the podcast.
Guest of the podcast. Another person who somehow finds Joe delightful. So ending the comedy year pretty much on a high note. I got a New Year's show in the middle of nowhere on the border of Rhode Island, at a pub, which will be fine. But then I will drive a half hour south to Providence, Rhode Island, where our friend Jen Howell another friend of the podcast is hosting a show. Mike Kotrobis has 5 shows happening, and him and Steve are at one. Wayne's hosting one. Anthony's hosting one. I'm hosting one in Chen. So his little
Jeez.
farm system will all be busy, spread out throughout
Yeah.
New England, like literally throughout 3 states.
Right.
5 shows in 3 states. I mean, he could have given me the one in Andover, where my right where my parents live, which
Uh-huh.
20 minutes away. But no, I'm in Wittensville, I think it is, or Witten, yeah, something like that. Anyways, but okay, enough of that. Let's get in to the recap of last year. So, Joe, why don't you start us off?
I'm probably going to guide us all the way through this because I actually have a list
Oh
of
my
all the
goodness.
episodes. Now, I'm going to ignore the regular shows because I didn't have descriptions of the regular shows, and really, who cares? It's just here's a recap. I mumble and stutter and do a bad impersonation. Biff tells a Japanese story, and Jacques talks for 90 straight minutes without taking a breath. That
and then
was
we'll
every
record the
regular show.
podcast.
Yes. That's the secret sauce of the formula of Carnival personnel. But so let's focus on the side shows because those are the ones that have mostly guests. And I'm going to do it in chronological order, starting with our first side show of note in January of 2024, sideshow 118, Maria Dennis. I'm sorry, what was her title? Vice President of Hockey Operations or NHL?
Legal counsel for the National Hockey League Players Association.
Yeah.
A delight, former, not technically Olympian, but she was on the first women's national team.
Yep.
She was known in her days at Yale as the franchise.
Yeah.
She is probably the most delightful person you get to call your friend.
Yeah.
And women's hockey is flourishing in North America. And she personally paved the road. It's not an over exaggeration to say she paved the road for, where women's hockey is now. And she's just a great person. We said we are going to have her dad on, and we will, because, he was a fascinating guy. Through the talk, we found out a lot of stuff that he had done to really forward the game of hockey and the women's game. So yeah, that was a way to kick off the year.
Yeah.
I don't think I was on. Was I on that episode? I think I might have not been a guest. Yeah. So okay.
We excused you.
Yeah. Right. It was this was too. Yeah. It was too jockey for me. A lot of locker room talk.
It was one of those things where, I mean, I can honestly say, close personal friend to both Biff and I. Somebody we've known for 30 years. Somebody with my starter wife who was instrumental getting her to the Olympic coach, coming out and scouting her, getting her into the league at the time in the early 2000s, the WNHL, playing for teams in Vancouver and Toronto. So when I say, like, we don't know her for 30 years, we've actually really close friends.
Yeah. And, and not, and still, like I listed in the, the most powerful, people in, hockey list. I mean, we're not talking about most powerful women in hockey. We're talking about most powerful people in hockey. I mean, and it's kind of important that she is so out there, and the fact that she has those hockey credentials and yet is doing such an important, operational, having such an important operational role. It just really is important. Just like with any sports, it's a short career, right? And some of them, may not even really make it, to the highest level or whatever. But she's also still paving the way in terms of, look, here's, we can be involved, as women in this sport, doing things, and putting our hockey cred to work, and so on. So yeah,
that was a great one. That was really great.
So the next sideshow 119 was back in February of 12th, and the guest at time was the great, we mentioned just recently, John Tobin. Yeah.
I was just going to say, the stories that he told were ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. And John Tobin, I think, was the only person to actually deliver on the, no, was it John? Did John? Yeah, John showed us the Dick Doherty box, right? The Dick
He
box.
did, yes.
Yes.
He went and got it. Like
Yes.
during the talk, he got up, went and got it, and then when we posted the show, he had taken a picture holding a $1 bill, a $2 bill, and the famous $3 Dick buck. Which was great. Yeah, no, that was a highlight, and it was one of those things where. Again, our friend Dwayne and Anthony have a podcast. It's great, Open Mic Pain. And we've joked in the past, some of the open micers and some other people who have passed on doing our podcast, and rightfully so, and passed on doing their podcast, rightfully so. But when the guy at the top of the food chain in New England comedy not only came on
co-created the
podcast,
Boston Comedy Festival, founder of Nick's Comedy. Yeah.
you go down the list of like yeah, he went to Nick's the first time when like the same time. So Nick's was there, but he did Laugh Boston is his place. He has a place in Springfield. But anyway, you wouldn't know that he's this monster and the comedy world behind the scene because he's just this great guy who had the best stories, shit on himself. Like he had a couple great stories where he was like, just really, owning that, when he was really young and just trying to figure out how comedy worked type thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was an honor having John on, and then we followed that up. A real nosedive, I'd say. Episode 120, Sideshow 120. Dave LaPointe from the Complaints and Observations podcast.
I can't believe we didn't get canceled. like that the governing body that oversees podcast, who've sent us many warning letters in the past.
Luckily, we're not on their radar.
Yeah.
So that's why we didn't get a notification from the podcast police.
But
we're not in their jurisdiction.
And it was great. And he was at the time he was on hiatus with his podcast, Complaints and Observation. And I think he had such a delightful time coming onto our podcast that he said, you know what? I really need to get back in the game because these guys suck so bad.
He saw the state of podcast without him,
So you're welcome, podcast world. He was also the catalyst, by the way, of really pushing and making the Hafen episode last year because we had talked about Hafen and how I'm sure he's a spy. And Dave was one of the people who's like, I don't care what it takes. Get him on the podcast. And Hafen did not. But having Dave on was more than stupid fun. He's a great guy, and I'm glad he's back in the game.
Yeah.
Yes, Dave LaPointe, Complaints and Observations podcast. Give that a listen. Stop this right now.
Right now.
Unsubscribe, delete, report, and then go listen to Complaints and Observations.
Can you unstar a podcast? There's like minus stars.
Oh, if only. I tried, and they won't let me. Sideshow 121, March 11th. Our guest that episode was pianist, composer, comedian, actress Sarah Infini Takagi.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another countryman from the land of the rising sun. It was great,
and she's all over the place in the best way possible, right? She's just like just the fact like how do you do comedy and be a concert pianist, right? I mean that's like what an insane combination.
Like Victor Borga,
right?
Yeah.
But sexier. She was. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Victor Borga. She's a little. She has a little edge on there.
A little. And when we say concert pianist, this past year, she got to cross Carnegie Hall off her list, like a Carnegie Hall level, concert pianist.
Right.
And she was a pal of mine before. We chat, we all the time.
Yeah.
She has taken not a hiatus because she also does acting. She dealing with a health thing this year.
Right.
But I am running a couple monthly showcase mics coming up that she will definitely be featured on because she is first of all just a really good comic. Like not being nice saying I'm helping Mike run a couple showcase mics, but she's also really funny and a really great person. That was a lot of fun.
And she just had an appearance on the Turkish national TV. I think I saw that on her post. Yeah.
Yeah.
As
you
a
can-
pianist, not as a comic. We probably need to clarify this every time, right? She appeared at this time as a pianist,
Yep.
even though the thought of her doing comedy in Turkey is pretty 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 awesome. But
Yeah, well, someday, you know, I mean,
yeah,
she
yeah,
could. I'm not ruling it out that she won't do
yeah.
comedy in Turkish
Correct.
because she's pretty smart.
No, absolutely.
So the next sideshow episode 122, March 25th. That we had the pleasure of interrupting a vacation. Maybe not a vacation, but he was down in a vacation spot, but he was working. But again, I think we touched the sun as far as podcast guests, might have gone for our podcast in our history when we had Tony V as a guest. He was in Aruba, and but you know what? Before he had he was like a couple of hours before he was doing his spot or his hosting gig down there, and a couple of internet hiccups later, we got through. We cracked the code. We gave him the VPN or whatever we needed to do to get him online, and he crushed as usual.
Yeah, it was. If you don't live in the New England area, I mean, you can look him up on IMDb. Has been in some really great movies like The Town,
Mhm.
but he is in that like rarefied, like, I mean, it's Steve Sweeney, it's Lenny Clark, it's Christine Hurley, it's Tony V. Those are the names in New England comedy and have been for. Christine's only been the big name for about 15 years. She's been in it for 20 years.
Yeah, only,
Got a
right?
late start. Only. But those
Right.
the other three mentioned truly since the mid 80s have been headliners in this region and just the nicest guy. Like it was ridiculous how he's a few years older than me, let's say, and then he didn't get frustrated with the technical hiccups and the internet stuff and be like, we'll do this when I get back. Because he goes down there on a regular basis.
Yep.
There's a club down there. A comedian named Aruba Ray has a place down there, and he brings those level comics down for like a week at a time. So there he was in his Italian T-shirt, right off the beach, and it was fantastic. Like I said, the fact that he truly, and then it was a little while after that. Was that before or after the Boston Comedy Festival? We worked with them.
I think
before.
after. Well, maybe before. I think it aired maybe after because it was the end of March.
It aired the week he got the award. So we recorded it a couple weeks before. So then Joe and I see him there.
But the award being the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2024 Boston Comedy Festival.
Nice.
Continue.
And it was great because I mean we talked with him a lot like then, and there's been several times I've got to be on shows with him. So truly, he's one of those people who, came on the podcast. I knew him. I'd seen him a couple times. I did a show with him maybe. For some reason, he said yes. Was hysterical. Was great. And like I said, tonight I get to go do a show with him up in Portsmouth. So it's absolutely fantastic. A run of those kind of people. But definitely was a highlight. Not a highlight for the podcast, but a highlight for me for the year. Seriously, getting to become friends with him.
Yeah.
I know who the fuck you are, Joe. My favorite story.
He doesn't know me. That's okay. It's fine.
He turned around and said it before you said your name. Joe goes to introduce himself, and as he's saying, "Oh, and I'm his friend Joe," and he goes, "I know who the fuck you are, Joe." And we all just laughed. He is a delight.
He knows who I am, but do I?
Yeah.
Anyway. Next sideshow 123, April 8th. We had on, continuing the trend of having on comedians, Dave Radigan, a cohort of Tony V. They had and unbeknownst to us, they hosted a YouTube podcast for like a year or two. Like, I think it was pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't know that when we when we interviewed both of them that they had done a show together, but
our research team was sleeping that.
I'm sorry, I was tired.
No
okay,
one got fired.
Research
so they
team.
tried.
You got to get paid to get fired.
Yeah,
But
and Dave was great.
Dave Radigan, yes. What's the name of his company? The Scamps.
Scams. And yet he was yet another comic who came on the podcast and stopped the podcast to say, Joe, you're the funniest person I know. Why is he doing this and you're not? You know? He flat out told Joe, it's like, you're funnier than him, which agreed. You know, and the highlight of that episode is when he was talking about mentoring, and he's like, yeah, I'll mentor anybody. I'm happy to help the next wave of comics come up. I'm also happy if you don't take the advice, then it frees me up from having to mentor you later. Really good guy.
And then I think a couple of weeks after that, we'd seen both Dave and Tony perform in Arlington, about like half a mile from my house, or like 5 blocks. I don't even know.
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, we could have walked, but we didn't because we're fat and lazy. So, and it's also
You're
a rough
lazy.
neighborhood.
I'm fat. So.
Will they ever get along? I almost
It's kind of like The Odd Couple, but not.
Oh, it's odd.
Yeah.
And it's been argued we're a couple, so yeah.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yes. Yeah. We probably should have been a couple when they legalized it, but you know what? We missed our opportunity. Anyway, Sideshow 124. April 18th, we had on Alana Foden, comedian, producer, sex toy expert. That's what we promoted her as on the title of that episode.
Is she all 3 of those things?
I said put sex toy expert first.
Yes, you did. You did. Yep.
If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. First sex toy expert, then comedian.
Yeah, she is fantastic. And she's one of those people who I was friendly with before the podcast. And then when you have these people on and we post an hour and a half conversation with them, that's usually we talk 15 minutes before and sometimes an hour after. She does a show, maybe maybe like 20 minutes for me once or twice a month that I've been on a few times. And I try to go to see it if I have a free Thursday that she has it. She's become a real friend, and she's a really good person. She really gives so many spots to comics who don't get on other booked shows. She will only book you like once or twice a year, depending on things, not because she doesn't think you're great, because she really wants to open the door for as many people. So she is great. And yes, all the dildos you can want. Which for me is none.
Not a price. Yeah.
Because you're a plug kind of a guy.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, because I awkwardly shift. Hey, look, I'm going to start playing chess, and I've heard that, Menoir balls.
Let's just say his chair does not have a seat. Okay? So we're gonna go. Sideshow 125, April 25th. The author of Live from the Underground, A History of College Radio, Catherine Rydewell. And this, I honestly, I don't think this podcast would have happened had I not found out that there was an audiobook version of that, of the book that she wrote that Jacques could listen to ahead of time. And you're welcome.
It is true. No, weird, tiny world. She is a professor at my alma mater, Fitchburg State College, which is now Fitchburg State University. And the book isn't just about music. Half the book was about a quarter of the book was about college radio music, from the 70s on. But it was a very academic book. It was great that she was referencing some of the more historical college radio stations and people who have gone on to huge things, and mentioned a really good friend of mine, and like by name in the book, and talked about his career. So it was fun. Another fun thing was she, after having so much fun on our podcast, decided she was going to do a podcast.
Oh, wow.
It's going to take, she's recording the whole thing. She says it's going to take about a year, and she is going to she's doing a podcast, a historical podcast for my old college radio station, which still exists, WXPL in Fitchburg. I was the first guest.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
And because I know a lot of, I'm still friends with our friend Sully, who was also on the radio station, our friend John Hunt, from the band Five Head, and gosh, forgive me, John, I can't remember the name of his new band. It's awesome. But anyway, so I've heard, so she is just great,
Well, that is really cool.
and
Yeah.
I knew it was out there, and I probably have a copy somewhere, but after we talked, because she looked up some of my band stuff, and she found the Billboard magazine article from '95, I think it was, that she found online and sent it. Like she did her, like I don't know what kind. She has a research team, and she sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh man, this was great." Yeah, so it was great having her on, and it's true. People think I joke when I say I can't really read, so the fact that it was a 400-page book, very few pictures. Yes, the fact that Joe did find the Audible version for me made it possible. So thank you again, Joe.
oh, you're the world thanks you for having her on our podcast. So now we're getting into May, and we're kind of, we're just doing the sideshow highlights, but we should also maybe take like a quick mention or a quick note, a second to mention. Thank you, Joe. That we had the opportunity of helping work or volunteer, if you will, at the Boston Comedy Festival last year, which was a unique, opportunity for us, just to kind of be a part of that. So the great Jim McHugh granted us that opportunity. He was on our podcast. I think, it must have been last year. And then, but that leads us into the next several podcast guests, because episode Sideshow 128 from May 6th featured one of the co-champions of the 2024 Boston Comedy Festival, Angelica Scanura, hailing from Toronto, not Toronto, Canada.
So here's why being a good person is always the right thing to do. Joe and I got to the finals early. I think we were the first ones down at the Berkeley Music Hall. And so we're standing at the stage, and in comes one of the contestants who wanted to have her picture taken with the big, it's a really great picture, like, so you see her from behind looking. We took a bunch of, 2 hours later, she's named the co-champion. And it's like, so when we asked her, hey, will you do our podcast? She's like, oh, of course, because she probably would have done it anyways. But it was nice we had that moment to share with her beforehand that, she ended up like using as like her socials post, like, for a long time. It was great. Hysterical. She now has her work visa.
Oh.
And she's in the U.S. almost as much as she is, if you follow her on the socials.
Right.
She also has a YouTube show called oh, God damn it, Jacques. Again, where's our research team?
Yeah.
But she
I'm
has
on it.
She has it's a morning show, and she has some pretty big guests from Toronto and around Canada on, some martial arts experts. She by the way is truly a world renowned belly dancer. Like, and she is in like the national Canadian like dance, like whatever. She's in a lot of she's another multi talented person, and hopefully Marie Dennis will be doing the show soon, because I've connected them, because I'm like, I introduced my two favorite Torontonians together a little while ago, so they will be which again, those are the kind of things when we get to do this and we have guests on, that how can we connect them with other things, which is always fun. So Daily Dish, Angelica's Daily Dish.
No, now you've thrown me, because I'm trying to like find Angelica Scanura YouTube, and I'm only coming up with Exercising with Angelica.
Yeah.
And
but it is great.
Scanooch is her YouTube channel.
She's in the States more. She's in the last couple months.
Angelica's Daily Surprise.
Daily Surprise. Thank you. She's gotten married to her longtime boyfriend, and they have another comedian on the way.
Oh my God!
Nice.
Yeah. So she was.
More importantly, another Canadian on the way.
Right. You know what? Can't have enough of those. But she is
really
ridiculously funny, having won the Boston Comedy Festival,
Yeah.
co-champ, and just an absolute sweetheart. So that was a really, really fun chat.
Yes. And to follow up with that, we had on a finalist at the Boston Comedy Festival this year, episode Sideshow 127 from May 20th, young comedian Joseph Katz, comedian and possible time traveler, as you put it.
Right? Yes, yes. Well, I mean, when you say young, he's what?
He was
28,
born older.
going on. How's that again?
Yeah, I say he was born older.
Yeah.
He's like I think like 26, 27 ish. Going on 75.
Yeah.
And, but like a 1980s 75, like a 75-year-old now. It's like what's the term for that? Oh, John Taylor. But but yeah, he's an old soul. I think we spent most of the time talking about the Dick Van Dyke Show, and rightfully so.
Yeah, it was great. He knew a lot about just old 20th century comedy.
A lot
like
of Carson.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we talked a lot about Johnny Carson.
He referenced Geritol. He referenced Geritol, if you remember. He goes, I didn't take my Geritol today. Joe's like,
and by the way, Geritol, we're still waiting for that sponsorship money.
Right.
Or at least a little Geritol. Come on.
Are they still around? We probably need to look that up.
Yeah, maybe a defunct sponsor, maybe not. Although I put in
Oh
Joseph
no,
Katz,
they're still around. Yeah, okay.
I put in Joseph Katz comedy on Google, and our podcast is like the 4th or 5th thing that comes up. So
Nice.
no, not nice, Joe. Get on it. You got to start putting more content out there. No, but he's a delight. Hopefully we can catch up with him in 2025 if he doesn't defect.
Defect.
Episode 128 Sideshow, June 3rd, to kind of round out the trifecta of guests that we had from the Boston Comedy Festival. The other co-champion, I would say the more bearded co-champion of the Boston Comedy Festival, Casey Crawford.
Yeah,
and he's just a very interesting and just a cool guy.
Yeah,
to hang out with.
I don't want to say which Dakota, but he was from one of the Dakotas.
One of the Dakotas.
I say there should only be one Dakota, but go on.
I say there should be none. Wow.
Southern
Canada.
Oh, he's from one of the Dakotas.
Yeah, but that make him Canadian if we gave it to him. Anyways, met his wife at grad school in Nebraska, where in his mid-30s he got into comedy, and he is just a one-line savage. Like, he is one of those things where the premise for his joke is also the punchline. Like, he will and he very cerebral, very methodical, like comedy writer. Him and his wife, who hopefully we will have on soon because she has this semester off to do a sabbatical, in which while she's doing research, they are going to essentially just go on tour, because he can.
That's cool.
Yeah. She was a delight when we met her, but yeah, he was a great guest. Just a really funny guy, obviously, but a real fun guy to just talk to, and just his whole approach to comedy. Joe and I working the Boston Comedy Festival was, first of all, it was fun. And again, because Jim McHugh came on this podcast with Joe and I, had fun, wanted us to help him with his live streaming, which is how we got roped into that, which was a lot of fun. But it did, it was 6 days. I think Joe was there like 3 of the 6 days. And we actually, in the finals, Joe was timing the comics,
right.
In the finals, which was stressful for us because
what's the key to comedy?
The chicken crossing the road. But it was
timing.
Damn it, I was close. But we ended up like walking out of there with and we will talk about another friend we made, through Jim McHugh and the Boston Comedy Festival coming up. But anyways, go on. But the Boston Comedy Festival led to 3 amazing guests.
Yes. And at least like immediately, like back to back, like directly, we would have, we would not otherwise maybe have been in touch with them had it not been for the Boston Comedy Festival. So then following up with that, episode 129 sideshow, younger comic making his way in the world today, taking everything he's got. It was back on June 17th when we had the opportunity to talk to Sean Ruiz, aka Mr. Rue.
Which I didn't know that we're listed on like IMDb. Because he was excited that he's like, because he's also a part-time actor, and that he has this, or that he, and he's like, oh, and the numbering was wrong or something, whatever it was. But
Huh.
he was really excited to see the reach of it, because when we have a guest on, we'll try to put a 2 or 3 clips on the week that episode drops, and he says I had not got this much social media traction ever. So he was, that was a really fun talk. That was a really, really fun. He competed this year at the Boston Comedy Festival.
Okay, this is how much I don't care about this podcast. Until you brought it up just now, I didn't even venture to do an IMDb search for Carnival personnel. As like a downtime hobby, I do frequently go to IMDb and like make updates to like movies and stuff that I don't have all the information filled in. I'm looking at the Carnival personnel entry for podcast series. The episode guide has 404 episodes. I don't know if Sean Ruiz has been responsible for this, but if so, thanks, man, because he must have gone through all of our posts and then translated it to IMDb.
They were just there. It was already there. So when he looked it up, like he was excited. Same thing. It's like, no, we're not on IMDb. He goes, yeah.
Well, let me
you are.
credit you on that. So or correct you on that. When you have your free moment, go to IMDb, look up Carnival personnel.
No.
The thumbnail for the show it says CPP sideshow 129 Mr. Rue. Like, it's the graphic you use.
Yeah. And I posted that on Carnival personnel on our Podbean page. And it took me like a month to figure out how to pull it down, because I thought, oh, it will just be this episode. And then it took me forever to get our old one back up there. So we'll have to fix that. But anyways.
if you go to, so wrap it up. So if you go to IMDb now and you go to like the list of episodes, it shows like the show's graphic next to each episode. So every episode has Sideshow 129 Mr. Rue, Sideshow 129 Mr. Rue. Like every single one has that graphic next to it. So
we got to fix that.
Yeah, okay. I'll fix it.
Look, we had a research team on it. Wake them up.
I do have an IMDb account, so I'll go. Anyway,
but that was a fun talk. That was a fun chat.
Sideshow 130, which was on July 1st. We got to speak with a sweetheart of a man, everyone's favorite talking bear comedian, Liam Hales.
Yes, I will be working with Liam. This drops Monday, but I will be working with Liam 2 nights ago. If we get Joe's time machine in order, can we put a time machine in your work van, or would the company not be okay with that?
I don't know about that. I think they probably want to, garnish my wage or something.
a little talking to the HR. But yeah, Liam is another guy that met through Jim McHugh. He runs a lot of Jim McHugh's shows. He's running his own show now under the Jim McHugh umbrella on Fridays at a great place called Waterview Grill in Portsmouth, and he hosts most Saturday nights at the Roundabout, Jim McHugh's place. So yeah, he's just a sweetheart, like a really great guy. He's done a couple other shows, kind of branching out, getting into the Mike Katrobis orbit. But again, we got to work with him the whole week at the Boston Comedy Festival. I don't think I can say enough nice things about that guy.
Yes, I like Liam a lot. Moving on to Sideshow episode 131, July 16th. Jacques got to speak to comedian and self-proclaimed chirping zebra, Mark Riley.
Yeah. career. I was hoping Biff, you would be able to do that one. He only worked
Yeah.
in the NHL for a week, but a 30-year ECHL,
Right.
AHL type, ref. His podcast is a lot of fun. He
Yeah.
has the podcast. I can now say it because it's past Christmas, but he did a live recording of his podcast with John Carter, who 10-year NHL guy. Played on Team USA, not the Olympic team, but the national team
Yeah.
with Richie Dunn in '86. It went to Russia.
Mm.
We talked about that. But he did a live podcast the week after our podcast with him dropped, and his guest was Derek Sanderson.
Right.
And, I had gotten Paul Rugar a signed Derek Sanderson jersey.
Nice.
And I said he got it for Christmas, and Paul's like, hey, what do I owe you for this? I'm like, well, that's the same deal I have with John Taylor when it comes to his hockey paraphernalia.
Yeah.
You're going to die before me, so you will it back. You are just long-term storage. Let's be honest. But yeah, Mark was a great guy. I think we were at the show that I worked with him at the beer garden, the Budweiser plant show that I did with him, Joe. Were you not at that
Yeah.
show? Yeah, really nice guy. He's a fun guy. Mostly crowd work. He's a crowd work guy. So, but yeah, Chirping Seepers is fun. He's had not all the Boston hockey legends, but he's had a lot of them, like Terry O'Reilly. Of course, Derek Sanderson and stuff like that. He's had a lot of like the big time personality. Paul Stewart. He had a
Right.
Paul Stewart episode, which was great. He had Paul Stewart's brother on, who was great. But yeah, that was a really fun episode that Joe would have been bored out of his mind. But it would have been great had you. I forget, what you were doing.
I can't remember what was. Yeah, there was something where I just I already had something committed or something.
I think he
can't
had that
remember what,
callback on a Dow soap commercial, Joe.
He couldn't make it. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm just updating the IMDb page for, and I am not making a joke because the only cast member was Sean Ruiz as a guest. So I had to at least throw our names in there. Anyway, Sideshow 132 aired on July 29th. I don't believe, I think I was on this. I can't remember which episodes it was on or not because of the cholesterol that's clogging the brain. But Tyler Morrison says horrible stuff, really, really funny, according to you.
Another guy. He has a comedian record label that has a deal with Sirius, and so he also was at the Boston Comedy Festival recording the semifinals for Sirius Radio. He himself, he's a true B plus, A minus Canadian comedian, like he's a national Canadian comedian, but he's also a writer. He was one of the main writers on the Tom Brady roast. So he does a lot of that kind of writing. He has a number of specials on YouTube that are all awesome. He's kind of like a Canadian Anthony Jeselnik. He does say really horrifying things, but it's really, really funny. Good guy.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, he's also the one who has Fight Stories.
That's right.
Yeah, he has a podcast called Fight Stories where it started with mostly ex-NHL guys. Him and his partner, John Moses, who is going to do the podcast hopefully sooner than later. Like they went to St. Louis for a live recording and had like 3 ex-Blues from like the 70s and 80s, like their fighters on and stuff. He is a great follow across the socials. Fight Stories is a really fun podcast. If you like that kind of stuff, but Tyler was a really, really good, just right out of the gate, just shitting on us in the best ways. Really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a fun guest and, but not as fun, I say. I'm sorry, Tyler, but step aside because Sideshow 133, August 12th, we had on the one, the only America's sweetheart comedian, Doris Ballard.
78 years young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. I've probably done 6 shows with her this year. You know, I think, yeah, a couple in Maine, couple in New Hampshire, couple in Massachusetts. It's almost like we're on tour. Her husband Norm is just a sweetheart. She got into the game late. That's a fun podcast because she is truly a delight. One of the best people I've got to become friends with. Joe and I've got to become friends with, falling down this rabbit hole. Yeah, that was a really fun conversation. Really, really love her. She's great.
Yes. Yeah, I had a very nice time talking with her as well. Yeah, and then I said, you know what, let's take down the quality of this podcast even further. We've been riding high with all these fun,
Look,
smart,
if you thought
funny...
the complaints and observation, what was bad?
Oh God, sorry, man. Let me I see your complaints and observations, and I raise you a formal edition reunion, which is what we did, episode 134 Sideshow, on August 26th, just before my birthday, but it was our 30th anniversary of formal edition. What's formal edition? Science has yet to determine that. We still don't know what formal edition is, but it was I think rumor is it was a local comedy show where Jacques and I met.
It's a rumor.
Rumor.
Just a rumor.
Look, there was only two problems with that episode. Jim Retman and Stephen Cole. Am I right? High five, Joe. Hey, up five. Now it looks like I'm calling, so I'm going to stop that right now. Yeah, Joe started this show with his high school pal, 95, 94,
94, which would make it the
30 years. There you go. And honestly, it's ridiculous how much fun that reunion show was. Honestly, those guys are just two of the best guys I've ever known. It was so much fun taking that walk down memory lane, and that was all Joe. Joe really worked his ass off. He had gone back truly into the archives. He had to go through the Disney Vault to get to the formal edition. For some reason, they had jurisdiction over it, and he pulled up just some of the best clips that. Can I say I forgot about them because I have no recollection of them? Is it forgetting?
Yeah, right. If your brain forgot to remember them, how can you forget something your brain didn't record? Yeah, it was a great trip. I edited it down to like 90 minutes. It went for like about 2 hours or so. I trimmed it down. I actually, jumped back into the editing bay to, deliver something that I thought would be palatable and entertaining to the regular person versus just the four of us, laughing at our own stuff like Norma Desmond, just like watching old clips of ourselves.
But it was fun. And you know what, like it made me like kind of kick it into gear getting ready for next year. Cause I miss, of all the things, I've got to write some TV stuff, got to write a couple movie feature things, but my happiest place is writing, sketches with Joe. And it's just great that was really the ass kick to, stop talking about doing this and start doing it again. No, seriously. There is no writing thing that I've done that has made me happier in my life than writing, sketches with Joe.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Writing with me.
Have you not been in putting input? So I started shooting stuff. I'm not going to release it for a few months, if at all. But yeah, Joe says he's not helping, but I sent him everything. And a couple days later, he writes back, "Kill yourself, but make these changes if you don't."
Yeah,
I'm not your mom. I would never say that.
You want it, you wish it. But,
wishing won't make it so. So Sideshow episode 135, which was about a month later, September 23rd, we had on Matt Mishi, aka Mr. Pinky Ring Comedy. I don't think I was a part of that. Yeah, but I was barely a part of it. I don't think I spoke much.
You did
like this podcast.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Like I brought the energy that low dick energy, whatever that small dick energy I brought to.
We met Matt because he was the MC the night the preliminary rounds of the Merrimack Valley Funniest Person contest. That Wayne Russell from Open Mike Payne and I were finalists. We were in the top 3, so that was great.
Yeah.
He came on the podcast. He was great. Yeah, he has this thing called Italian Ring Comedy. There is a
Pinky Ring.
Pinky Ring Comedy. There is a big Italian conglomerate of comics, like huge in this area. And since the podcast, he in the last month has now taken over Nick's Comedy Stop, like the absolute iconic,
Oh, I see.
historic Nick's Comedy.
An Italian comedy conglomerate took over
Yeah,
Nick's Comedy. That's what
they
did.
made John Tobin,
An offer he couldn't
couldn't
refuse.
say no, an offer he couldn't refuse. But he did. Like, John Tobin was, too many oars and too many, waters, and he, as much as Nick's is like the icon of Boston comedy, just didn't have, the bandwidth, put out word. And it turned out that Jim McHugh was one of the people, his old partner from Boston Comedy Festival, reached out to him, and Jim is spread to then, and he was the one who said, yeah, Matt Mishi is really hungry, really wants to do this, is doing great with Pinky Ring. And so if you follow Matt Mishi, you follow Pinky Ring Comedy, you follow Nick's Comedy Stop on the socials, dude, he is posting like a madman. He's making the cool flyers. He's, because he's friends with all these people, Matt, helps out with the Comics Come Home, the Dennis Leary Boston Garden sold out thing every year. So he's friends, like not friendly, friends with all those awesome.
Is that the Comics Come Home?
Yeah.
Dennis Leary?
So he has parlayed that into running Nick's, and I'm not going to say it's because he was on our podcast, but yet success.
Look, coincidence, right?
Look, was it a coincidence that our episode with Tony V aired on a Monday and he got the Lifetime Achievement Award that Thursday? I'm just saying, a lot of great things have happened with, did Angelica Scrinoir have her work visa to come to the United States before this podcast? The answer is no.
Oh, you. Yeah, so the next sideshow 136 we had on that was on September 30th. The recently collaborated with Ohio, basically the last person you work with, I think, directly on a show, Mr. Wicked Funny himself, Chris Flayhive.
Right. Yeah, that was great. Chris, just one of the nicest guys. Here's all you need to know. When you have a destination wedding, you have it to weed out the riffraff. Chris Flayhive 2 years ago, or a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, had a destination wedding in Italy. And over 60 people from the New England comedy community traveled to Italy for his wedding. And
Wow.
and this was 2020. Yeah, it was 2022. There was maybe another 15% of people who were doing their own research and couldn't get into Italy, so weren't able to go. I mean, he literally would have had over 70 people flying to Italy for his wedding, because that's how well liked that guy is. He's an absolute sweetheart, runs great shows. It turns out that, he runs shows at all over the place. He was the one that ran the Kyoto show I got to do with Christine Hurley. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. He's just a really, really good guy. His wife is absolutely awesome. She helps run a lot of the shows with him. I'm really, really lucky this past year, through this podcast, through people, like Mike Craig Trobus, go down the list, all these people who have done nothing except kick doors down on my behalf. And if nothing else, they're just really good people to hang out with. There's so many times I will go to Wicked Funny if I don't have a show, just because it's a fun place to be. And,
right.
Chris is usually the last person to leave the China Blossom. So, and then very often goes to this tiny hole in the wall bar down the street in Lawrence for a couple more hours. So he's a really, really good guy. That was a lot of fun, getting to know him more, because, you got an hour and a half to just shoot the shit with somebody like this. It was great. So.
Yep. And then moseying into October, we did a couple of the regular shows. One of the shows, what a little sidetrack here. One of the regular shows was a recap of our visit to the Back to the Future Museum, which I think you had a very good time with
I,
me and my sons.
I am now in your position where I am scrambling to find somebody who hasn't gone to have the excuse to take them back there. It's like, and it's like one of those things where I will, if Joe says, "Hey, we're going back next weekend," I'm all in. I would, I'll drive. I can't wait to get in and see it again. But I really am trying to think who we can take. Like when you come to visit next, Biff, we are taking you to that place. And pack a lunch. It's a 3-hour tour
Uh,
plus
3-hour
A
tour.
3-hour tour.
Tour.
so so me and the house will be bringing every piece of clothing we've ever owned, apparently.
And apparently, this is a much more fun museum than the Nintendo Museum. I heard that the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto is kind of meh. Like it's more of a store than a museum. But anyway,
What a shock.
yeah. But
But he's not selling the Back to the Future Museum isn't selling anything except happiness.
No, yeah, and that is not even a sale. It's just he just gives it away.
Yep.
And then you make a donation to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and Bill Shea and the Shea family.
Yeah.
They're just conduits of fandom for people who love movie, cars, Back to the Future, you name it, they got it. And so anyway, back to the sideshow, number 137. October 28th, Mark Moshe.
That was another. Mark is a really interesting guy. He's just got into comedy the last couple years. He realizes he's not a comic, like Chris Flavor. I'm not a comic, but I really love comedy. That's his thing.
When will you realize you're not a comic?
You know what? I just literally walked right into that one. Here's the thing. Here's the weird thing. I put the glass door there. And then forgot.
I just removed the "Do not enter" sign from the glass door. Like I took all the stickers off. Like just
right into the propeller. You walked right into the propeller.
Yeah.
The fun thing about Mark is he only does charity shows, and he's raised over $80,000 for 503Cs.
Okay.
So he likes comedy. He likes all kinds of causes, but that's all he does. He puts together these great shows. And the last show I was on, Lord Legacy, who's been on, Doris, who's been on, Mark, who was on, and he puts together really, really good shows, but for good causes. So that was fun, kind of really seeing how that part of the machine works. So
Right.
And it's great that now I get to actually say, yeah, I don't know him, but he is a friend. So I did that one solo, but it was a really fun chat.
all right. And then kind of getting towards the end here, Sideshow 138, November 11th. It was the 60th birthday of this esteemed guest, and also the person that you opened for and helped host recently up at the Kyoto restaurant. And where was that? What town was that in?
Tewksbury.
In Tewksbury, Massachusetts. Anyway, Christine Hurley, the queen of New England comedy.
It was really great that. So when she went on, I knew I had 30 minutes to go sit, with my parents and Joe at the table where my sister was and my sister's boss and their significant others. And it was, I think, the highlight for the evening when Joe and I actually got to see my sister do a spit take, an actual honest to goodness. Went to take a drink of water as Christine Hurley said something horrifying.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And my sister does a full-on spit take. The claims that Christine Hurley made that just before the show that she absolutely loves me and was snorting cocaine off my ass in the bathroom may or may not have been true. Hey, what happens at Kyoto? But yeah, no, she and the first time I opened for her, I hosted a show for her. at Navigation Brewery earlier in the year. It's the same thing. She was the last human being to leave the facility who didn't work there. Like if you want to talk to her about her comedy, about
Yep.
anything that she had mentioned or what, she is just a beyond sweetheart. Her husband is just great. Her daughter, who's now getting a comedy, is fantastic. But honestly, that podcast was so much ridiculous fun. And her husband truly had to drag her away because she was late going. Her parents wanted her to come over for, a birthday
No.
thing. It was actually her
Right.
60th
Her
birthday.
actual birthday.
And but seriously, she is just the nicest person that I've got to meet doing this. I've got to meet so many amazing people, hands down. Christine Hurley, Jimmy Hurley, the nicest people. Joe and I now get to say are our friends.
And Jacques is not one for hyperbole, so you know that she is the nicest person.
Well, it's funny because a little, maybe it was the week after I record that podcast, I'm doing a show up in Maine, Sanford, Maine, humble brag, with Steve Bjork. And I say that, yeah, she's a nice person. And he says the first couple of years he knew her, he's like, it's kind of got to be an act because nobody can be that nice all the time. He's like, in the 20 years that I've known her, I've yet to run into somebody who's ever seen her have a bad day. And she has bad days. I'm quite sure she does. A piece of shit Jimmy Hurley just dragging her to the bottom of Hades and all that shit. But seriously, everybody who's got to spend time with her walks away saying this was just the best. So
Nice. Yeah.
And then the two more sideshows, Sideshow 139. November 18th, we had on, I wasn't a part of this, but the debut of co-host Ellen, your management. The guest for that episode was Lisa from Eddie's Ranch, aka Eddie on Wheels, a 501c3 charity for dog rescue.
So management has been doing we've been doing dog rescue for 21 years, and it's part of my act where I talk about it. It's a special need senior rescue mostly, and this summer, like me, right? She's had all the practice with me. After a couple of years with me, she's like, if I can work with this a-hole. So this summer we got a couple dogs that we still have from the guitar rescue we help out. One's this blind Saluki, and he's great, and this absolute sweetheart angel, two-legged. She's born with two legs, not the front two legs. And management is friends with Lisa, who reached out to her and said, hey, I'm gonna get her wheels, because it's when you get a dog from a rescue, usually they're spayed, neuter, because the rescues get deals for doing that. There's lots of perks when you get a dog from a rescue, but there's a rescue fee, and it's usually between like $250 and $450 to adopt a dog from a rescue. That is a tenth of what it costs to take care of that dog while you had it. But those wheelchairs are, between like $750, $1,500.
Right.
And it rules out a lot of people being able to adopt. And all, and also because, we talked about, if you live on the second floor, it's hard to carry a wiggly dog down a flight of steps to get out. I will say, when you see a dog like that and you make the mistake of thinking, well, this two-legged dog can't get up on the counter and get a cupcake, and you turn around and the cupcakes are gone and she has a wrapper in her mouth, and you're like, you motherfucker. But Lisa sponsored getting our Trixie. I just posted a video this past weekend of her using her wheelchair for the first time that Lisa bought, that Lisa's 503 bought. It turns out, because there's only 9 people on the planet, and the past year, Christine Hurley had a senior dog that brought it to the vet tech. Lisa from Eddie's Ranch, just coincidentally, because it's a small world. She works at her day job is she's a vet tech at one of the most prestigious, like the Hurleys drove over an hour, literally had to pass 100 dog hospitals to take it to this. Right. And it being a small world, it happened to be Lisa who took care of their dog. So Christine Hurley and Jimmy are like, oh my God, yes, we are doing a fundraiser next spring for
nice.
Eddie. Eddie was the name of Lisa's dog, who was the love of her life. That's where the Eddie on Wheels came from. But the actual 503c is Eddie's Ranch. But
Alright.
we are, because we're gonna buy a bunch more of those
Those
pumps,
wheels.
those wheelchairs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so she was great. Management, who does not listen to this podcast.
Wow, that is shocking. To be fair, she doesn't listen to you in general, so
You know,
She's just carrying on the tradition,
you
and she's
know,
living her best life, really. Not
she
listening
she's
to
really
the
is.
podcast.
she's watching your mouth move, and then then
wah,
she'll
wah,
give
wah,
you instructions.
wah,
Right,
wah, wah,
yeah,
wah.
yeah.
But it is true. It was fun. She was very nervous. She
Mhm.
was very nervous doing the podcast, but had a blast. And basically, I did my routine by asking them the same questions. It's like, I asked Lisa, would you adopt a you? Like, based on the parameters that you have
Yeah.
all these other special need dogs and a couple cats and stuff like that. It was fun. That was a really, really fun. So yeah, we've had lots of comics on, and we're going to have even more comics on. But the fact that we've had, yeah, well, I was going to say the formal edition guys, but they're comics. But having Maria on, having
Yeah.
Catherine Rodgel on, having Lisa on, having these incredible, just people doing great things. I absolutely love and am stunned the quality of guests who come on to this podcast.
Yeah, and to wrap up the year in sideshows, just a couple of weeks ago, we had on Sideshow 140, KO Comedies,
Oh.
Annie and Jay Die a Lot.
Yeah,
That's not their legal last name. I don't think. I don't know if he married, if he took her name
took
or
her name?
if they took whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
They crossed name.
Yeah,
thing,
but more great people. I forgot. Right, that just happened. But yeah, they're great people. There are a couple out of Oakland who, during the pandemic, to help a couple of their friends who are stand-ups find ways to keep doing stand-up during the pandemic. KO Comedy was created, and they were a lot. They're big gamers. They're big Twitch gamers. They are horrible at everything.
That's why they die a lot.
Right, that's where the name came from. Jay was a ranked professional Madden player. But
Wow.
every other game other than Madden, and
If it's not Madden, it's crap.
that's right. So they were just abs. Am I wrong? Was the
Yes.
Sounds of Our Childhood last year, or was that 2023 or 2024?
Must have been 2023 because
Okay.
I went through I
Okay.
went through all of I went through the listings, and that's what I found. But you know what? Hey, if we missed anything out there, hey, you Carnival personnel heads, if you missed anything, let us know on our social media.
I would be impressed if we were fact checked.
No,
That's
wait,
that's a new
well,
level. That's a new level of attention that somebody's giving us.
I went on Open Mic Pain, and those guys came on our show. Was that last year too? Was that 2023, not 2024?
Hey, figures
think
don't
you're right.
lie, boy.
No, you're right. No, it just doesn't add up, son.
I mean, it is pretty
I guess it
impressive
does.
that Jacques is trying to kind of put his memory against an actual list that Joe has compiled. So
Look, alternative facts.
I'm just saying.
Wait, though. Okay, I just brief thing. So yes, the Wayne and Anthony from Open Mic Pain was December 4th, 2023.
So pretty close.
Last
Okay.
year.
All right.
All right.
Within the margin of error, they say. Within the margin of
Sounds
error.
that shaped us, November 6th, 2023. The margin is widening.
But yeah, I mean,
And Leon's getting larger.
What do you make of this?
Oh, I can make a hat. I can make a. Yeah,
So-
it was a great year. And then real quick to fill in the gaps of the regular stuff. Let's not forget that you went to see Saturday Night Live
Right.
dress rehearsal. You got to see. You went to LA.
It wasn't the dress rehearsal for the after party, motherfucker.
Hey, right. That's right. You got to rub elbows with almost John Hamm. It was pretty cool.
It was great. The former guest, again, I don't know if we're going to have John Herstick a few years ago, the tech giant, and the human giant, and Bill Fay, was in
Right.
town. So I just replayed
Ex-legendary
that.
pitchers legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you also went out to LA, had a triumphant trip out there. You played a couple of barbershops,
Yeah.
and that was a good time.
Hung out with our friend, another friend of the podcast, two friends of the podcast, like Sally Mullins and Dante the comic, while I was out there. Became lifelong fans of LAFC, of the MLS.
Right.
Technically, Renette also.
Yes. Well, that goes
Podcast
without
guest.
saying, which is why. Right? No, it's true. Absolutely. No, what a great year.
Yeah. And a lot of highs, couple of lows, but we don't talk about those. We only talk about the laughter and love. Sha la la la.
But going
Speaking of
down
which, we got to meet Michael Gross.
we got to meet right at the Boston Comedy. Like the Boston Comedy Festival was worth the $300 of parking tickets I got. Hands down, worth $300. Well, no, I got about $150 of parking tickets, but every other day it cost me $300 to do it. More than well worth it. Absolutely more than just 4 or 5 guests we've got from that was worth it. But I'm looking at the list, Joe, and going forward, same thing. We're going to have the formal edition guys on again. I want Tony V and his son Gus, who I've become friends with his son Gus, who's also a great comic, to come back. We definitely have to have Maria on with her dad because, I'll just Reader's Digest it. Her father, who was working with USA Hockey, and this is like in the mid '80s, was trying to put together a national team and trying to find teams to play, including the Soviet Union, and got knocks on the door with the FBI of why he was in contact with the Russian Hockey Federation so much. So I want to hear that story from him. It'd be great to have Catherine come back and talk about her new podcast when it launches. I know there's a couple dog rescues that management works with who have reached out saying, "Oh my God, that was a fun episode. Can we come on?" So we will be. I know Chris Flayhive knows some Mr. Wicked Funny knows we're rescue people. So February 2nd, am hosting a fundraiser for Aruba Dog Rescue at Wicked Funny on February 2nd. But we'll probably have the Aruba Dog Rescue people on. 2 of the dogs we have came from a rescue called Gal's Best Pals. We will have them on. I want Jimmy Hurley to come on. I've talked to Jimmy Hurley to come because he's a manager. He I can't imagine his stories. It'd be great to have Matt come back on.
Why don't we get Jimmy Fowley on? Don't you know that?
You know what? I have pointed out that, okay, so we can get the guy who created Legendary Pictures, but I can't get my cousin. Okay.
He's currently under a gag order with NBC.
Probably at one point we will, but not while he has that job.
Maybe, right. Maybe he can go on Fly on the Wall. If he can get him on Fly on the Wall.
Right. Well, look, if he's going to say something that sinks his career, it's not going to be on my podcast. But everybody we've had on, I've told Tobin because, being one of the 2 highest, most downloaded podcasts this year, he is now legally obligated to come back because he has a couple other things going on. I'd love him to come talk about. But also, there's so many friends that we've had on, a couple of your friends who are really creative. Joe, I would like to come back on. Biff, I still would love Guitar Center Scotty. I mean, the for Guitar Center Scotty to tell Guitar Center stories, because I think the non-disclosure agreement has to have expired by now, right? I mean, those can't be in perpetuity. So he can come on and talk about Guitar Center. I don't know why we haven't been able. John Taylor's people have been dodging us forever. But we do. We know so many fascinating people, through that circle. When we had Al, the Toy Man, on a couple years ago, Al was just retiring from a lifetime of being a trinket salesman. Like the dollar store and Dollar Tree were like his biggest clients. Made a very comfortable living, but as a hobby, started doing background work when he was on the podcast. He's now in SAG, and he works an average of like 3 to 4 days a week on some of the biggest movies and TV shows. But he just did it as a hobby. So I love him to come back on. But we do. We all know some fascinating people.
Some in prison. I'm sorry.
You know what?
By the way,
former FNH guys in prison right now.
Speaking of FNH, I was wondering, did we ever have John Taylor on? And I now know that we did not. But I did a search on our episode list. I typed in Taylor. We mentioned in the titles of our episode Taylor Swift like 3 times this year. So
And
I know Jacques
it
trying to
should have
bump
been
up
more. It should have been more. Is what you're
Jacques
saying.
trying to get that sweet search engine optimization there.
Yeah.
Trying to bump up those SEOs.
Agreed. Biff's a national treasure in 3 countries. But I love the fact that we've had, 2 Canadians on and 1 American who lives in Canada on this year. We had somebody from Aruba. It was last year from Sweden. But it's like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was. We crossed all boundaries. We're a podcast without borders. That's what I say.
I mean, the range of comedians from Joe Katz to Doris Ballard, what I mean? Just that range alone. Oh,
that's a January, December kind of
right.
Span.
And look, just like all these people we love to come back on. I would, now that I mentioned doing the sounds thing. That was an all-time favorite of mine. But we already.
I'm sorry, Dave Lapointe. You can go fuck yourself. You're not coming back.
Yeah, 100%. Right.
One and done.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've never reposted it, but after you guys logged off, he explained how the European soccer system works to me. And that's in the can for one of those weeks where I'm like,
and by can you mean toilet?
You know what? It's a beautiful game. Joe, has Ted Lasso taught you nothing? But yeah, no. And we've already, Joe and I have already recorded the first sideshow next year coming up. Next week's podcast with the beyond lovely, beyond talented, beyond just absolutely. I'm trying to think of other adjectives to describe
beyond it.
Beyond it. We'll play a Beyond It song as we end that episode, of course. Emily Ruskowski was our guest who drops next week. Somebody who management and Joe had a show that I did with her early last year. Instant fans. She has a very important, great day job in the mental health community as well. So that's somebody I could, have on. She could co-host this thing anytime you losers don't want to be here, which is always exactly.
Welcome, new co-host Emily Ruskowski in 2025. Finally, get some female energy in this room.
You monster. It was nice. It was nice that management and Lisa a couple weeks ago that we have. It was great, guys. This was a fantastic year. I have nothing else to say except thank you for another awesome year, Biff and Joe, and for indulging all of my my comical whims by letting me have all these great people on. But I do. There's nobody on that list except for fucking Dave Lapointe we wouldn't have back. But I'm hoping that we get more people from the F&H circles and from Joe's world, in 2025. So thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, listener.
Single listener. Thank you. You know who you are. Biff, thank you once again for another wonderful year of podcasting. Even though you're only here for a quarter of it, I would say that I was only here for about 2/3.
Yeah.
But no, it's always great to see you. I hope you have a happy new year. We'll catch up in Project 2020. I mean, just 2025. What did I say? Project 2025? What am I talking about? Anyway, but no. Thank you. And remember, Jacques, no man is a failure who has friends. Just, little word to the wise there, a little quote from a book that an angel once, a good friend once told me. Anyways, I don't know. I'm trying to shoehorn in an It's a Wonderful Life reference at the end of this podcast. Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. That's right. Attaboy, Clarence. Yeah. Merry Christmas, you old building and loan you. Happy New Year to you. In jail. And don't forget.
Wish I had some dozen donuts. Wish I had some donut jams. Donuts make me stuffed and happy. I can eat a bunch of them. There's a wild life. Donut today. This is who I am. 50 to the right. Hard to know. I'll box of broccoli curry filled with jam. Donut shops are always crowded. Hardly ever an empty chair. pocket full of